Okay, guys. I don't know what to say. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, good night for me, because by the end of this meeting, I'm gonna be asleep. That's for sure. Because here I just saw, I don't know if you guys can see my camera. Can you see this? It's just one past midnight for me. For you
Wow.
guys, it's 7 p.m. And for Kim, all the way from Australia, especially for us, it's Saturday, 8 a.m. For the ones who
Wow.
just joined us, we just mentioned that she is the girl from the future. Can you imagine that? So if you want to know something is going to happen in 2 hours from now or something like that, just ask her. She's going to know everything. So I think so this hour is going to be short. Anyhow, I'm going to stop talking. I just would like to tell you how I met Kim. Kim used to live here in Belgium, and we were kind of neighbors. We met through our children, and we had a beautiful friendship for years. But then she decided to move back to her home country, leaving all the friends behind. We all miss her deeply, but we know she's having a great time back then in her farm. I think I've said enough. I'm gonna let Kim give you guys a little introduction so you can hear her beautiful Australian accent, and then you guys can start asking her questions. Welcome, Kim, and please introduce yourself.
Thank you. My name is Kim. I was previously Kim Michelle Shirley when I left Australia when I was early in 2021. And I had just finished university. I finished a biochemistry degree and I had started cycling with my university club. And I got to a level where I started to ride for Australia, and was taken with the national team, and we moved. There was a base, Australian Institute of Sport had a base in Varese in Italy, and we would live there and train and race around Europe. And I did that for a few years until I was picked up by an Italian team. I rode with an Italian team called Guerciotti, that was based just outside Milan in a very small town called Bonate Sotto. And while I was living there, I learned to speak Italian. That was a quick learn because everyone around me spoke Italian. I used one of those Italian in 3 month books. And so as quickly as we could, we were learning Italian. And then when I left the Australians and I was living with just Italians, it was even more. There was nonnas and people around us in our accommodation were helping us out that could not speak English. So we just had to actually swim or we would sink. And that's when I was living in Italy there, is when I met my husband, who is an Australian, and he was living in Belgium, riding for a Dutch team. And a year or two later, I moved to Belgium to be with him. And that's where we lived for the next 10 years. We started raising our children. We have 3 children. And they all went to the local school there where I met Simone. And we lived there until 2021 when COVID hit. We couldn't get back to Australia. They closed the borders. And it was a real wait till we could sell things. And finally, at the end of 2021, 22, we moved back to Australia and they started school here. So it was a really strange time that, I mean, everyone has their story during COVID, but it was just the kind of thing that you never expect to not be able to go home. And I think that's a big thing that living abroad is that you'll always assume that if something happens with family, if something happens in the world, you can always catch a plane back to your homeland. And that was a real strange feeling to be stuck in a place we chose to be, but not to be able to move back to Australia when we wanted to. So it was a relief when we did get back here. Can everyone understand me well enough?
That was a great introduction. Anyhow, that was really great. I think that if everybody concentrates a little bit, you could understand her. For the Italian guys, I think we have Rodrigo, Renato, it speaks a little bit Italian. Who else speaks Italian, guys? We're going to test her right away.
No.
No. We're just going to stick to English. That's the main goal here. So who would like to ask him some questions?
I would. My name
Go
is
ahead.
Tatiana. Hi. It's my first time joining the group. Ken, what is so did you bike? We were a professional biker at that time. Like, would you like bike when you went to Italy to participate of a team? Were you actually an athlete? Like your that was your profession?
Yes, that's right. I was given a contract, an airfare, and it paid so much to live in Italy. And we would race sometimes once, sometimes twice a week, sometimes we toured, Tour de France, tour of Italy, Tour of Slovenia, Tour of Switzerland, all those tours. And women's sport, without getting the funding of men's, we did a lot of driving, so a lot less flying around. So we would spend, a day, drive through the night to Spain to do a 3-day tour and drive home again. So it was a lot of travel, and that was probably what wore me down more than the racing itself. But yes, I was, and I had ridden for Australia. I've done some world championships for Australia, and that's when you get that exposure as a national athlete with your national team that someone else. Yes.
That's very cool.
Well, it feels like a long time ago now when I think about it. I think it's hard to remember.
You don't race anymore? Not
No.
even for fun?
My husband retired 4 years ago, so he was still racing he just turned 40. And till he was still racing. But no, I don't even. I ride the bike to school with the kids now. That's it. Yeah. But it's a different country to ride a bike in here, and I wouldn't want my children riding any further than the bike path to school because it's just not made. It's not got the bike paths of Holland and Belgium. It's not made. People aren't used to sharing. People drive big vehicles. They've always had themselves, and it's a danger. When I think back, my parents letting me ride and race here, I was already at university when I was doing that. So they probably had a little idea of what was happening, but it's people get hurt all the time here. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay,
right, so sticking to the bicycle thing, so the infrastructure about cycling over there in Australia is not so good. Because here in Brazil, it's very hard, especially in São Paulo, that's a big city, to be, to ride bicycles over here. It's very complicated.
Yeah, no, I think when those countries that do it so well and they have bike parking set up, they've got showers at workplaces set up, and it's something that it's so easy to do. And I think also with the generational thing that they know that their grandmother could also be on the road, then they drive with that expectation that it could be their child or their grandma. So it's a normal thing. And here, it's not expected or considered. It's you're getting in my way. The cars are the road users, and that's more the feeling, I think. Yeah.
You see? Well, so then I have a question. It's a little different, it's a little far from sports, but I'm very curious about what is it like the healthcare system over there in Australia. This is something I have never heard about. Like, do you have like universal, um, hospitals that anybody can be attended, or it's like all private? I really don't know, and I would be very curious about this.
No, we absolutely do. We have public hospitals, and that's anyone. It's free, all your treatment there, but it is waitlisted, and it's becoming more and more. You do have to wait months or something for an operation that's not urgent. But then there's a lot of private hospitals as well that people join a private fund and pay however much a month, and they can be seen a lot quicker. The general practitioners that people can go and see, you just choose to do that. But you also, while you pay when you go, you are refunded a price from the government every time. We have a product called Medicare, and that is what everyone pays. That comes from taxes.
Yeah.
That covers all of that. But so you can choose. The government encourages people to take out private health cover so that it's not their public system is not overrun in such a way that you will be taxed an extra levy if you don't have your own private cover. So people who can afford that are actually penalised and taxed more if they're not taking out a private cover to help cover the public system.
I see. We're here in Brazil. We have one. Yeah, that well, anybody can enter. Yes, it's for free. It's public hospitals, but we have the same problem. The lists are very long, and it takes a lot of months for an operation, for example, to happen. Yeah, but that was a curiosity. Thank you very much.
Well, it's more things that I've learned because I was only a mother living in Belgium. A lot of things that I experienced as an adult that I wasn't aware of till I came back here. And one of them is in Belgium, you can choose a specialist. If you've got a skin problem, you can call that specialist and make an appointment. In Australia, that's not possible. First, you have to go to your first point of contact in the system is your general practitioner, your normal doctor, and he will write you a referral to go and see this particular specialist. And only then will you be reimbursed for that. So you need to go, and it's an old system that's not working as well now. That this is why the general GPs get absolutely inundated because everyone has to go there for everything first. So there's a real shortage of those, and a lot of them are moving from overseas to here to take up that role to fill up the general practitioner jobs in Australia because the population is growing. We need enough doctors because of the system that everyone first has to see their local doctor before they can see somebody else. So that does put a huge strain on those people because they don't want you just calling a specialist and going there because they don't want you to reimburse if you're not there for the right reason. So that's the theory.
Interesting.
Kim, continue on this question because I think it's important as well. So you're saying that if you are a doctor somewhere else in the world, you can apply to become a doctor as well in Australia? There are openings at the moment?
They're asking for doctors to come to Australia. A lot of UK and I think Indians are moving to Australia to be doctors.
Oh, really? How about the Chinese? Because they are everywhere as well.
Yes.
Are you getting lots of Chinese as well? Okay. And how about the students when they go to university? Is there a limit for students to start, or they say, oh, everybody can start medicine?
Well, they're asking again because we lost. It's Australia's, after mining, foreign students is Australia's second biggest making of money. That is, they're a big earner in Australia, and I only heard that recently too, that since COVID, a lot less students have travelled back abroad. And so Australia is definitely the private universities are calling for more international students to come out here.
Anybody who wants to study or living in Australia? That's the tip. Anyone else with questions, guys?
But I think that's what's very interesting about living abroad is that you don't take for granted what you grew up with. Because I remember when my children started school, it was so young. It felt so young. In Belgium, they can already go to school at 2.5. And I was like, oh, that feels really strange because we didn't start school till 6. But there are reasons for it, and it's really childcare. But they're not learning anything at that age. It's the state helping out people by saying you can send your child this many days a week if you wish. And it makes you think maybe just because what we know is not right, the only way to do things. And I think that you might, especially those sort of domestic things, you might not look into until you're living in another country before you start questioning how your country does things.
Right on. That is really exactly how it is. Okay, so you see the map. Can you point out where you are?
Excuse me. Just above Brisbane there. So it's an hour at Sunshine Coast. It takes us an hour to drive to Brisbane. We have most of our facilities here, but yes, sometimes the other day I had to get a passport removal update, and that I had to drive down to Brisbane City there.
So you guys see, it's all the way east of Australia, and maybe most probably the reason why there's so many hours difference. Kim, if you are completely from the other side of the country, like the west, how many hours differences with you? I'm just talking about the time zones, not about driving or anything.
4 hours. You know, Haley, who lives in Perth, opposite side of the country, they're 4 hours behind us.
So you see, like in Brazil, we also have 1 or 2 time differences.
We have 4.
4 as well. Oh,
4
okay.
time zones.
Fernando de Noronha, Acre, São Paulo, and 1 more.
Kim, could you repeat the name of
Manaus.
your town, please?
My town is called Buderim,
Oh.
B-U-D-E-R, B-U-D-E-R-I-M, E-R.
R
Sorry, E-R, B-U-D-E, E for egg,
B-U-G
E. There's a second one there.
B. Oh, the second. This one?
Kim, you have to spell it in Brazilian way, because otherwise it's difficult to understand.
Yeah. I was looking at the map and I saw that it's not kind of states that separate Australia. It's like territory, like in Canada.
Well, we have 2
Provinces.
territories. We have 5 states and 2 territories. That New Canberra, as I told, is called the ACT, Australian Capital Territory. That's very small. And then the Northern Territory is also a territory. And then you have the other states.
Is it very expensive to live over there?
Well, it depends where you're from. It does. It is. Cost of living is, I think, everywhere going up and up and up. But then you have people from the UK who'll say, oh, we can buy what we can buy. Like in real estate, it costs me nothing to live there compared to London. So, and I can get a big house and I have a big yard and all that kind of thing. But people living here will tell you how much more it costs than last year and the year before and the year before that, how much more expensive it is. But yes, compared to Belgium, I think we get a lot less social services. And I think the cost of food and rent and that is a lot more than in Belgium, even with the exchange rate. But yeah, there are a lot more out-of-pocket expenses with school and dental and things like that.
And Kim, what do you like most about living in this country?
Oh, probably the weather. And that's what I miss. The weather, I miss that the most living in Belgium. Today, we were in the first month of winter and it started at 10 degrees. It'll be 20 by lunchtime.
Oh, you're making me so jealous.
Very mild.
It's a perfect winter.
It's raining again here. It's almost summer and it's raining and it's gray. Oh my goodness.
No, I hate it when summer starts late and you waited so long for it. Oh.
Hey, hello, Kim. Why do I feel like you have a British accent?
Really? Does it?
Yeah.
Interesting. People have said to me, and Americans will say to me, "Oh, you sound like Princess Diana." To me, Princess Diana sounds very different to Australians.
Serious, because I've spoken with Australia and the accent is kind of different from yours. I was like, wow.
Is it British?
So I just have feelings. So I don't know.
No, there are definitely, without having the what do they call them? That I'm used to in Belgium, the dialects from different areas. But there's definitely places around Australia. There's more a country accent and a city accent.
Okay.
You could tell maybe someone from the lower states certain words they use, but nothing really. You can't say that's an Adelaide person or that's a Brisbane person. It's just, little variables in how they speak. But I think we speak fast, and I think that's hard for people. They're always saying slow down, because we do speak fast.
I think they were also colonized by the British, right?
Yeah, I think, the Australian, I think it's normal for them to speak like British also.
Yeah.
It's not. Okay.
I think Carolina and Marcela have questions on the chat. You can just go ahead and ask. We're going to try to speak more instead of letting me or Kim reading it. Go ahead, guys. Try.
Kim, is there any cool traditions or festivals in your country, Australia, that you love, that you recommend for us?
we don't have a lot. We have, and it's only because yesterday was a public holiday that I think of it. Shows a bit like you know, what do they call them in Belgium? A bit like a not carnival, but a kermis, like a kermis, where you have you go there in there. They do agricultural show here, so they have, each town will have throughout sort of the show period of the year, where they show off their horses and their cattle and their produce, and then they also have a sideshow where there's rides and things you can spend your money on and foods and all that kind of thing. So that's a bit unique. Apart from that, there's Australia Day and Anzac Day, and they have those sort of remembering festivals where they'll have fireworks and you know, a day off and marches and things like that. But nothing uniquely Australian. I think they're all more based on British models, all of those things.
Really? I asked you because, Kim, I really love a particular kind of music that's rock and roll. And I've been hearing a lot of actually two specific bands, and that these guys are from Australia. I will write on the chat because I don't know if I'm speaking correctly, but these two bands are Australian bands. So that's why I asked you. So maybe, I don't know, one day I will visit the country and see a live concert. I don't know. It's
yes. Yes,
yeah.
definitely. No, there are a lot of and pub bands and small, but a few festivals, one on the green, a few outdoor things. But again, yeah, you've got to be young to know about that. I don't know about those. But it is, I know it's always difficult for Australia to get big artists out here because we just don't have the population, and it is such a long way to travel. So international groups need to be on a world tour or something like that for Australians to see them, not like you'll see them pop across to Europe or something like that for a few shows. So yes, a lot of homegrown music.
So
Thank
she
you
wrote
so
down
much.
Royal Otis. Do you know them? Royal Otis?
I don't know.
Old
And Old
Mothers?
Mothers, they are indie. It's a indie rock, this kind of style, you know?
Okay, yeah. Again, I'm too old. I only know my music.
It's okay. It's
If you, Marcela, if you'd ask her about children's songs, she'd know all of them.
There you go.
Oh, really, Kim? Oh.
And country music is my American country though, not Australian country.
Oh, yes. Very good. Thank you.
Alexandre, are you ready to ask the question? Or Alessandra? Renato is also quiet tonight. Renato, are you ready?
Okay, so I'm listening to Kim about the curiosity of Australia. Many people from Brazil love to go to Australia. Some people don't want to come back because they love the country. Yeah, and I have a friend in our English group here in Santos. I live in Santos. Santos is a coastal city of Brazil. Okay, and he had problem to renovate his visa in Australia, and he had to left the country because not the bureaucracy. I don't know exactly, but he has a big problem when he lost the time to renovate the visa. So he had to leave the country, and he's going to be far from the country for 3 years. And it was a surprise for me because I think that's I don't know if you can call a kind of bureaucracy, but I think that was curious for me. Yeah. And but a point that make me interested was the population of Australia. It's about 27 million people living in Australia. And it's interesting because you have a huge continent. You live in a huge country. But when you compare with the population of Brazil, because Brazil has 220 million people living here, yeah, I say, oh, come on, how can a so huge country have so small population. Yeah, it look like Canada. Yeah.
No, it's true, and I think probably a bit like Canada. We got started late. Although we had the Indigenous people when white people came out was not so long ago, and so Australia's still trying to catch up, I think, and that
It's
is
really far. It's far as well. Tell them how was your flight from Belgium
Yes.
to Australia, for instance?
Yes, to fly to Europe, it's 2 flights, and you'll stop somewhere in Asia or the Middle East. So that's a 10-hour flight and then a 12-hour flight. So it's a long way. You can't go to Europe for the weekend. It's you need to take weeks out of when people go over. And the same reason people don't, it's a big trip to come out to Australia. You need to have the time to have make it at least get over jet lag before you fly back again. So yes, I think, and you're right. I notice the same when I go to another country, how more densely populated these cities are compared to Australia. You do feel like there's a lot more, and I think they talk about the Australian personal space when you expect to stand this far away from the next person because we have the luxury of doing that, and so everyone feels when they go to their first stop in a Southeast Asian country and everyone's packed in like this, Australians feel a bit like, I don't want to get on the train, it's too packed. And I think because it is more sparsely populated, people aren't used to being in close contact with other people, and that's a bit confronting when you first step off the plane in another country, that everyone is much more closely together.
Yeah.
Kim, this brown area here on the map, it's like a desert, a wilderness.
Yes. So that's where it becomes less and less vegetation, more desert areas. Some of that will be used for mining. And a lot of it's just left to either, there could be Indigenous people living there or nobody.
Yeah, I see the major cities, they are situated on the south and also on the coastline around the country. There is no borders.
Yep, so that was where Australia was first settled, in Sydney, where Captain Cook came over on his ships over in Sydney, and they started the first penal colony. And Sydney was made, Melbourne was made, Brisbane was another jail further up the coast where they set the really bad ones. And from there people started to spread inland and upwards. You would get, as a free settler, you were given a piece of land. And so that's how it all started to become populated.
How
I
far
also
is your
heard that.
city from Sydney? Because Sydney, I've been to Sydney, it's beautiful, but I think it's difficult for you or for everybody who doesn't live in Sydney to visit because it's so far and it's so difficult. The roads, are they okay? The roads.
You can drive there, absolutely. The highways are fine, but it will take you 12 hours. It's a 12-hour drive from Brisbane to Sydney.
Oh, wow.
The map, it looks so close, but in the map, everything is close.
It is deceiving too, and maps are not what they like. A globe they change sizes on globes. Australia's a lot bigger than looking at parts of America and putting different states together. There is a sheep station in Australia that's bigger than the state of Texas, and Americans always thinking they're so much bigger than everyone, and it's not the case. They do skew the maps to fit them onto the globe apparently, and so Australia is even bigger than it looks in the southern hemisphere.
Wow.
Which is the most visited city in Australia? Sydney.
Most visited. I would be my guess. I think everyone knows Sydney. People think Sydney is the capital of Australia, but Melbourne is also a big city. And a lot more people see similarities of Greece and Italy in Melbourne, where a lot of different ethnicities have settled and made the culture of those cities more like their home.
Excuse me, the capital is?
Canberra.
Canberra. Okay.
Yes. That's right. And that's why the Olympics were in Sydney and everyone assumed Sydney is the capital of Australia, but Canberra, the made-up capital, is the capital. Yes.
Right.
And Canberra is the middle of the country, yeah.
No.
It's the
Is that
middle of
is it?
Melbourne.
Yeah. Could you
let me
put
find
there
it.
the news? Yeah, that Canberra is the middle of the country. It's not a coastal city.
No, it's inland. It's between here. You've got Melbourne and Sydney,
Yeah,
and here is Canberra.
yeah.
To the right, okay.
May I ask you a
And
question?
those mountains there will have snow on them. You
Let
can ski
me.
on those
It's
mountains.
Okay, Alison, did you want to say something? I didn't know it looked like you want. No? Okay, so I want to make a question. Is like, what is it the fauna over there like? Have you, I don't know, have had I don't know, an interesting story to tell about something? Because here in Brazil, we have a lot of our fauna is is a lot diverse. Yeah, but we also hear a lot from Australia that there are a lot of, I don't know, reptiles, animals, just that. Yeah, do you have, I don't know, any funny story that, I don't know, you saw a crocodile in your garden?
Okay, so last year, and it's known that Budrum here is surrounded by national park. So it can be that things slither out of there into backyards, and there is a snake catcher in Budrum who's very busy. So last year we were minding a friend of mine's. Well, he went back to Chile for a holiday, and his children had guinea pigs, and we were looking after the guinea pigs for 2 months while he was away. And they were in a guinea pig cage on the ground in the backyard, and very, very small holes in that guinea pig cage. And we came out one day to feed them, and of the 5 guinea pigs, there were only 3 in the cage. And we're like, how can they have they pushed the door open? Have they gone out the top of the cage? And 3 days later, we found this carpet snake lying in the garden with 2 guinea pig sized lumps along.
Oh my God.
And he wasn't going anywhere because he had to digest a big meal. But I do not know how if he had those guinea pigs with him, how he got back through the bars, or if he ate them in there. I do not know how he did what he did, but that's what happened to 2 guinea pigs. We had to come up with another story to tell the children. But
And then
they're around, yes.
2
But
months
again,
at your
they're not.
place? Kim, what did you do to fix it? They were not yours. Oh my
They were not
God.
mine.
What
And
a bad
told
babysitter.
his children they must have run off to another place where they're having a lovely time. But the other thing is, you think of all the snakes are not venomous and they're not aggressive. There's a brown snake that is aggressive, but again, you have to be in its place. You have to be coming at the snake or step on the snake or something. Really, the snakes don't bother you. They're not coming looking for people. They're not looking for prey. They're not looking to hurt you. You'll see them come and they go. They don't want to be where you are. It's not an everyday occurrence that you're going to get attacked by a snake.
Wow.
That was definitely
Yeah,
a good
because
story.
the population of kangaroos in Australia is double than people. This is
A
quite
lot of
interesting.
kangaroos. They are, and
Yeah.
they are a pest in areas where there's cattle grazing, and they can strip crops and things. So kangaroos are a pest in some areas, and in other areas they breed them. We eat kangaroo meat. Kangaroo meat is in the supermarkets. So they're not, even though I think it's in some countries, animals on the native emblem people won't eat. Not in Australia. They eat them.
Are there some kind of protection for these animals?
Not for kangaroos. There are a lot of animals are protected, but yeah, koalas and most of the native animals, but kangaroos are so plentiful. They're not at all looked after. No.
And a country that's surrounded by water, salt water, what kind of fish do you like to eat?
Oh, okay. So there's barramundi. That's probably, if anyone's heard of barramundi, that's a big fish they fish in Australia, and it's amazing. It is very, very, very delicious, I find. But again, it's it's not like we have markets full of fish. That it's fish are expensive, and prawns, Mooloolaba
Yeah.
prawns on the coast here, they are expensive, and I think they're less easy to find as they used to be, fished out.
Kim, can you spell it? The fish that you like to eat?
Barramundi, BARRA, and there it is. It's number 3 down now, barramundi.
Okay.
Big fish.
Is it considered a typical Australian dish or not?
Yes, that's definitely an Australian fish, barramundi.
Looks
you have-
delicious.
Sorry.
No, it
Go
looks
ahead.
delicious. Yeah.
Go ahead,
ahead.
Alessandra.
No, I just wanted to know do you have traditional dish that you like more, or do you have a favorite food that you like that's very Australian?
It really isn't. There isn't. There is, people might say on Australia Day they'll have an Australian pie, a meat pie, which is still a British thing. I think it's a pie pastry with mince, savoury meat, ground beef inside it. That's probably the closest thing to the only Australian thing. Christmas time, it's pavlova, and again, that's come in, but it's a thing that Australians hold on to. But Australians eat really multicultural dishes. So many influences from Southeast Asia, a lot of stir fries, a lot of but no, it's really is because we do have people from all over the world that there is, and it's like I say, in Australia is so new and was settled by English. There's probably a lot of English influence as well, but yeah, a lot of Asian influence. People eat modern Australian, they call it, and it's very probably Southeast Asian.
Okay, good evening, guys. About the question that Vinicius said before about the animals, I always heard about the danger of the Australian poison bugs and animals. Here in Brazil, especially people from USA thinking about here in Brazil, there are a lot of animals in the streets. It's not true because we live in almost our people living in downtowns and surrounded by constructions, and we don't see frequently wild animals on the street. But I heard about this. Australia has the most poison bugs and animals in the world. And what do you say about this? The regions that you must to avoid if you go there, go to Australia, because here in Brazil, if you went to São Paulo, Rio, or big cities like this, you don't face these troubles because the animals or bugs don't live together with people. So, but if you go to the Amazon forest, yeah, you must take care about the dangers there. And I want to know about the Australia, what the regions that we must to avoid, or if you intend to go there, we must to call someone that know the region.
Yeah, no, I think, and it is, Australia is trying to kill you. That's what they say. We do have a lot of deadly bugs, deadly snakes, deadly the little centipedes,
spiders
and centipedes. But again, when you live in urban places, you know, it's true. They can be in your garden. You can have a redback spider in your garden. You have to be very unlucky to get bitten by it. You can have a red belly black but it's farmers, it's people who are out in the bush that are much more likely to step on a snake and have something happen to them. It's rare, and yeah, you need to go to the Northern Territory to get anywhere near a crocodile. They're not all over the place either. And sharks will take you off the coast of here. You can go down today and have a surf and be taken by a shark. Very rare, but it can happen. But I think the things like the red, like there are areas in Australia, in Sydney, they have a spider called a tunnel web spider, and it has a very distinct web that it makes. And again, you need to be sticking your hand in there to get bitten by these. And yes, there are massive spiders. There are a lot of things that look really bad that run away from you, that don't have any venom. And it's just, I don't know, it's the size of the land, it's being in desert, it's something to do with these things that make everything look bigger and scarier and more threatening than the things that we find, the tiny spiders that are in Europe or things. And I think that's why it's so confronting to people, because they haven't had that exposure to those type of things. Whereas you hear and you know it could be out there, but again, no one in my family has ever been bitten. My dad has pulled snakes out of grain silos that he didn't, like, he was once pushing up there, thought it was stuck with grain. He was a farmer and has pulled down a number of snakes and never had to go to hospital with a bite. You know, you do have to be lucky to get the angry snake, although they are talking now that the aggressive breeds have been mating with some of the more poisonous breeds, and they're worried about these super breeds of snakes. So some of the more aggressive ones, the brown snakes, have been interbreeding with some of the other breeds that are more likely to be around you, or more just in the times of drought and things. They've found that these super crossbreeds of snakes have been coming on. Everyone's been scared about that idea, which is not.
They're hybrids. Oh my gosh, hybrid snakes.
Coming for you. But again, yes, they don't want to be around where people are. They're scared of people. You know, they're not predators. Yes.
Yeah.
Kim, as we are talking about animals, let's share with the people that platypus and I'm gonna share my screen so you can guys see this mammal that lays eggs. It's really weird. I think there is just 5 mammals that can lay eggs, and I'm gonna share with you.
That's the platypus, and they're very shy. They live in rivers, and yeah, they are. It's true. They have a duck bill, and they've got fur, but they lay eggs.
Another question: do you have sports? Because Australia is known about the soccer. The soccer players is very, very good. That's the world team.
Yes, Australia's.
They are very famous players. At how can I say, we have the Brazilian soccer team, and you have the Australia soccer team that is famous as well. Do you like it? Football, soccer?
Yes, I love soccer. I love soccer. Soccer's grown in popularity in Australia. It's always been rugby league, which is Australian game. They play only in a few countries, I think, rugby league. And then there's AFL, which is Australian football, which is a bit like, I guess it's a lot like NFL. And they're the very popular teams that are playing around here. And at the moment, we have something called the State of Origin, which is Queensland versus New South Wales. And it's a rugby league competition where the players don't play for their professional team, but they play at this time of year for their state. And it's very state driven. So Queenslanders will say terrible things about New South Wales people, and New South Wales people say terrible things about them when they lose.
Do you like practice any sports?
Sorry?
Do you like practice? Do you practice any sports or something related with fitness things, stuff like running, jogging, or I don't know.
Roller hockey is the famous sport in Australia. Roller hockey.
Roller hockey.
Yeah, roller hockey. Yeah, everybody practice roller hockey in Australia.
Yes, no, there is a lot of sporting, and I think something I noticed different is sporting is done early mornings, and I think it's to do with the heat. Is that people will be up, whatever they're doing, running, riding, roller skating along the beach at
Yeah.
5 o'clock in the morning, because it just, the hotter is, especially in summer, people want to avoid. By 7 o'clock, it's too hot to do anything. So I use the gym a lot, and I find that it's busy in the morning, whereas when I went to the gym in Holland, it would be busy in the evenings. Australians a lot of people get up early. It's early risers, and same with, eating out at dinner. If you're not there at 7 o'clock at night, you can forget it. Some of the restaurants are closed at 8 o'clock. So that's going to be different to you people. Yes.
Right, another question. This is actually a wish. Can you teach us, I don't know, slang in Australian English that, I don't know, it's very common over there that you use every day or something?
Slang, did you say?
Slang.
Slang, yeah. No, there is a lot of that, and words that weren't there last week that now everyone's using this week, and you might refer to a person as someone you don't know their name. Old mate told me this, old mate told me that. And then there's a lot of, like I say, the difference between urban speakers and country people. They have a lot of just and you probably already think Australians chew on their words, but this sort of country way of speaking is Monday, like not even Monday, it's Monday. We went down to the, it's real drawl on the way they speak. Not quite the American way, but the Australian drawl, and much slower speakers. And yes.
It sounds like a little bit like the American way, like more of like people that lives in the middle of the US.
Yes.
They speak a little bit like that as well. It's interesting.
Yeah, right.
And do you have a favorite slang or phrase, Kim?
Do I have a favorite slang or phrase? And it's strange. My mum always picks them up. My mum has a book that she's keeping. What did she say? You wouldn't realize the amount of times you use colloquialisms, the times that you use, just when you just say, oh, it's as dark as night out there, or it's, all those kind of things that you use them all the time. And, when you speak to a foreign speaker then, and you're used to that, you're trying to edit yourself so that you're not saying confusing things that aren't literal, that they shouldn't take literally. So yeah, there are definitely a lot of those things but I can't think of a favorite one I have. No. And the same thing when you speak to children and they go, but you said it's whatever, but it was not literal. I was just saying the same, the same sort of thing that they'd taken for your word for word. Yeah. To think about it.
Yeah. And I put a question here in the chat before that was, what's one thing you wish more people knew about Australia?
Great question.
That is.
It gets really personal, this one, I think.
Yeah.
You don't get the same answer if you would ask another Australian.
Yeah, that's
it does make me think to when I was living in Belgium, and I was noticing difference between Belgium and Dutch people, and even the things that they noticed about themselves and where Australians fell along that spectrum. And Australians might have a reputation as being laid back and not being bothered by things so much, and sort of not being involved in something going on between other people, whereas we've got no Dutch people here, do we? A Dutch person might be described as being much more upfront and direct and saying, oh, that person did that wrong, or telling that person that how they did it. And I remember when I was in one time with a friend of mine who is Belgian and is Dutch, but she was working in Belgium hospital. And she said, what the problem is these Belgians come in here and they just beat around the bush. They won't say what the problem is. They won't try and fix it. They just sort of mention it. And while I saw myself as more like a Belgian and wouldn't want to be upfront about things, wouldn't want to impose on someone, I could see how a Dutch person was finding that behavior not constructive to getting to the solution because they weren't putting it on the table like straight away and weren't being direct. And so I could see how an Australian would also frustrate an upfront direct person because they were what they thought was being polite and not laying out the problem, but just mentioning maybe someday we could do this. Whereas a more direct person wants you to say it, let's address it and fix it. And so those sorts of cultural nuances make it difficult for people to work together when they're not understanding another person's, the gravity they put on something because they're not so direct with it, if you know what I mean. Does anyone else see that in different cultures?
Yeah.
So Kim, can you tell them if you see and if you know differences between Australians and New Zealanders or even Tasmania?
Okay. Well, Tasmania is a tiny place and it has I don't know what the population is, but small. And when they come here, there is, people do joke about Tasmanians. They're very backwards. They live down there to themselves. They keep to themselves, and it's not a busy place. They're just more. It's more small town Tasmania type thing. Beautiful, but they're not. It's not big business and things like that down there. And sorry, what was the first one you said? Oh, New Zealand. Yes, so New Zealand,
please. Yes.
It's another place that doesn't have. Does it not have mammals? Does it have mammals? There's something weird that they don't have. They don't have insects.
For us, it seems like they are your neighbors, but for you, it's just like they're so far away. But for us, it's like on this part of the world, they are neighbors. They know everything about one another. And
they are very similar.
But for you,
but yes, it's strange to me when people can't tell the accents. Because I can, as soon as I hear a New Zealander speaking, and we have a lot of New Zealand has migrated to Australia, you can tell straight away if someone is a New Zealander. Whereas I know in Europe, people will go, are they New Zealand or are they Australian? They sound very similar to them. But to me, it's very obvious. Like Canadians and Americans are hard for me to tell, but they can tell straight away. It's idiosyncrasies.
Have you been there to New Zealand?
Yes, I have. And that was back when I was riding. I went and did some races in New Zealand. And it is a lot like Australia. It is, when you look around, it is a lot like Australia. I mean, it has and I didn't go to its snow areas and things like that it's famous for, but in terms of cities and things, it does look a lot like Australia. Yeah.
I see. About the other one, the Tasmanians, right? Tasmanian, there is it's like an island, right? Is it a country? Territory.
It's another state of Australia, Tasmania. Yeah, it's a state.
Tasmania. I remember that I have heard that indigenous people live there, right? I don't know. So, what is it about the indigenous issue in Australia? It's like how the government treats them. Are there many? Because here in Brazil, it's a complicated issue. Yes, we have a lot of indigenous.
They're called Aboriginals. Right?
Aboriginals, yeah. No. But yeah, it is a dwindling population, but a lot of people who are much further from 4th generation, 5th generation Aboriginal. And they do have a lot of, same thing as in your country, a lot of aid, but it's such a complicated issue. Who aids who knows the best way to do things? But there are certainly a lot more than when I was growing up. Even every time there is a meeting, they first respect the traditional owners of the land before they open any meeting in Australia. There's a lot of anytime you fill up a form, do you have any part of this heritage in your background? And a lot of certainly awareness of, are we doing things respectfully? With your culture, they have different ideas about how to treat people who aren't alive anymore. How do we speak about them? How do we how do we even talk to people differently? So there's a lot of awareness of how to approach people differently if they are from a different background, that Aboriginal background. That won't be on the form. Are you Italian? Do you have any Russian in your history or anything like that? But it's a difficult issue in that what is the age of death of Aboriginal people is a lot lower than white Australians. And so, yeah, it's something that's constantly being debated, how to approach these. And there are communities, especially in the outback, that are being aided, and they brought in making these communities dry, forcefully dry. They couldn't have any alcohol go into them. And what was the human right in that for people to put a restriction on another body? So it's a really complicated issue. Yes.
Do they mix it all? Like, do you have white people getting married with them and children and everything?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. That's why you have people saying I'm 1/16 Aboriginal and entitled to different things at different, with any amount of Aboriginal in their heritage, they're entitled to different jobs, there's different payments. If you go to university, you can be subsidized. So it's a very complex issue.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's humongous. It's humongous how it spreads into what people are, what rights different people have. Yeah.
Yeah, we can totally understand. In Brazil, the culture is sorely marginalized. It's very hard to talk about this in Brazil too.
I have another question, Kim. Kim, is it like nationwide, the fact that Australians, they love to be barefoot? It's a curiosity about your country. It's really
No, it is. It's a lot more casual.
It's something that is everywhere, or it's just regional?
It's regional. It's regional. In the cities, you won't see people walking up barefoot, but definitely coastal. People who've just walked in off the beach, yes, will be barefoot, or in thongs, just little flip-flop thongs. But yeah, people.
No, I'm really talking about walking on the street, like on cement, and like what is it about? I remember you doing that all the time.
I don't know. I think people are just, and the weather. It's because I remember, yeah, it was a big thing. Don't have the children in no bare feet. It's like you'll catch something or something. And I don't know if that's the population or the weather or what that is. But yes, people are very casually dressed, very casually. People are in shorts and T-shirts, and people don't. And I think when you come to Europe and you go, oh, everyone's fancy. And my husband said, it's not fancy. It's winter. Everyone looks dressed up when they've got, a duffel coat on and they've got boots on. Everyone looks a lot better because they're dressed for winter, whereas Australia, if it's shorts and the same shorts that you can go in the water in, then yeah, it's very casual.
Okay, you can definitely say you guys are down to earth because you're always with your feet
on the ground, grounded.
Yeah, you're really grounded people, yes. Okay, guys, we are running out of time. Is there someone who would like really to ask a question right now? Otherwise, I'm gonna close.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead, Rodrigo, then.
I would like to know about the conscience of the society about environment. I want to know if the people of Australia is connect with the environment, if they're looking for rules to avoid deforestation, pollution.
Absolutely. And there's a lot of political debate about environmental policies here because there is so much mining. There is a lot of mining in Australia. There's a lot of renewables. Now there are a lot of wind parks, and they also have water, all the kind of things, but all the countries talk about. There is a lot of focus on how much land we do clear, how much land we need to be reforesting. It's a huge country, and it is absolutely, profit is driven by mining, and a lot of people are against that. But yeah, it has a lot of influence, the big companies that come here to excavate and pull things apart. So it's, I guess, the same as anywhere, a lot of pros and cons, and people trying their best, but at the same time, people influenced by profit.
Yeah, I watched it in the past, documentary about petroleum companies looking for petroleum in deep soil, the petroleum into the rocks. And in this process, I think it's called cracking, like it's
fraction mining, yeah.
Fraction, yeah. And with this process, there are a lot of problems. The gas that are in this part of the soil. Sorry, my dog went to play. Stop.
Tell us the
Wait.
truth. He loves the camera.
Yeah. And I because my area is agriculture, and I'm in research, and I remember the water from this farmer having problem with the water of his farm mixed with this gas. He put fire in the water because the gas is mixed with the water from soil, with the deep water. Yeah.
No,
I want to know if the society react to this problem, solve this problem, or this problems is occurring nowadays.
No, it's definitely addressed. There are a number of green parties that are interested in cleaning things up, and the same thing has happened with gold and silver mines with water that they've used to clean. They have their own dams and accidents have happened where a dam has cracked and it's got into the natural water sources and it's polluted rivers and things. So yes, it's definitely something that is discussed a lot, and it's the same thing, trying to find the right solution that people can be satisfied with. Yes.
Okay, I think Rodrigo is now satisfied with his answer. Kim, we ran out of time. I promised you, and I asked you for 1 hour, and you made it. You did it for us. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your life and your stories and your beautiful Australian accent with us. I think everybody's grateful. Let's say goodbye and thank you to Kim.
Thank you guys for having me. I hope you have a great weekend.
Thank you, Kim.
You have a lovely
Bye-bye.
day, Kim.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Great pleasure, Kim. Thank you.